Welcome back to the Star Trek Critic, where each episode is ripped apart for all its little flaws, and where my personal commentary sounds like the smartass sitting behind you in the movie theater who just won't shut up. And most of the video is still photos to prevent copyright claim. Today's episode is Elan of Troyes. The Enterprise crew engages in human trafficking to stop a war by means of a shotgun wedding. The first point is lost for the captain admitting on his public personal log that this is a top secret mission. If you want to get technical, Elan is from the planet Alas, and Petrie is from Troyes, so let's see if they get this mixed up later on. See, they are now at the planet Alas to pick up Elan. And minus one more point, if this star system is actually under Federation control, they should already know about those rocks laying all over the planet. Scotty quotes Kirk's line from 30 years from the future.
What are we doing here?
And now he thinks he's Captain Kirk. The Elasians are rather an impatient people, aren't they? Spock read up on them and briefly reports that the men of Alas reek of machismo. McCoy says, I read that too and it said the women are hot stuff. Then Petrie says that Dolman is the most hated thing among his people. The Elasian guards are pretty stupid to draw their weapons right when they materialize, since the first thing security would do is stun them, but minus 1 point, since no security was in the transporter room for such an important event. And if you had to wear placemats the prop department stole from Denny's, you'd have this expression too. Did Petrie ever complain that his parents named him after a dish full of germs? Kirk and Spock are both falling asleep standing up. The purpose of bowing for the Dolman isn't out of respect, but because she likes to throw things. That's why the other two guards are hiding behind the console. What most people don't know, it's in Francis Nguyen's contract to always be filmed from feet to head. This is proof she's a genie because she has no belly button. The Dolman likes to play Mother May I. And minus one more point, there's no way she could have a nuclear weapon on her. Just who is flying the ship right now? Spock broke the rules of playing Mother May I. As you can see, they take this game seriously. Kirk is like, no, my ship, my rules. Secretly, Elan and Crichton wanted to be the captain and Tennille. They applied for the job, but they got Star Trek instead. Kirk has learned quick how to play May I. Either he is well trained, or he just wants to get laid. So Petrie has a lot of work cut out to do, doesn't he? Should we warn him now not to bring her any gifts? Trust me, this one is not gonna work. The next point is lost for one set of double doors on the turbolift at the bridge. Look closely, they are going to crawl to the next planet to give Petrie and Elan some time to kill each other. Sulu and Scotty are both thinking it would be quicker to walk. The next point is lost for Lieutenant Uhura giving up her quarters when there are plenty of guest quarters on the ship specifically for dignitaries. Looks like Kirk is letting out a fart, but I wouldn't sit in that chair right after that. The Dolman is rehearsing to be on a reality show. But seriously, shouldn't she be in a wedding dress that represents her planet instead? It's actually a gift from her imposing new mother-in-law. She has an imposing mother too, you know. Here she is.
Bloody Mary is the girl I love. Bloody Mary is the girl I love. Now ain't that too damn bad?
But the Dolman says she can't be bought. In a last-ditch attempt, he offers her the family jewels. Kirk learns what the problem is with her quarters. It is covered with ridiculous female trappings. Obviously, Elan is a modern-day woke liberal who believes there are more than 55 genders, and to hint that she might be a cisgendered female is just an insult to her gender-neutral ambiguity. She is totally blind to the fact that the person who actually lives in these quarters sets the example of what real feminism is. Petrie gets voted out of her quarters, and Kirk decides he is just gonna piss her off by saying he isn't putting up with her shit, and I think he enjoyed that. Then Kirk calls out Petrie on the outside because he's just as bad as she is. Of course, his advice on how to deal with her doesn't go over so well.
We are reading an enormous amount of neutron.
Meanwhile, on the bridge, they spot an anomaly the size of a cloaked ship.
Strangely enough, it appears to be emanating from us. Enterprise?
Sorry, I got ahead of myself. Meanwhile, on the bridge, they spot an anomaly the size of a cloaked ship. Minus one more point for even allowing them to wander around engineering. Look closely, she's wearing a different outfit. Scotty is ready for a fight. Obviously, she didn't see what happened to the Klingons and the trouble with Tribbles. Kirk tries to get her to say thank you for the tour, but she just has too big of a stick up her ass to say anything like that. They now know it's a ship, Look closely. This is Chekhov. This is not, so minus 1 more point. Kirk needs money for the vending machine. Look closely. Spock says the Klingon ship is matching their slow speed. There's another disturbance in the Dolman's quarters and Kirk responds. Spock is thinking, I'm glad he's going and not me. Look closely. Elan has changed outfits again. Oh look, the bride just stabbed the groom's ambassador. Petrie took Kirk's advice and got stabbed in the back for it. He's not too happy with Kirk right now. The reason Uhura came down to tell this to Kirk personally is so he can't hear what Petrie says next. Petrie tells Nurse Chapel that the Elasian women's tears infect the men to be madly in love with him. While I really feel sorry for the men, Nurse Chapel is off to the lab to see if she can trap Spock that way. Petrie has quit his job and blames Kirk for everything, and now Kirk has to do his job for him. Don't look at the green chicken. Notice she has changed back into her previous outfit, so minus 1 more point. Kirk is her new teacher now. Here's how she feels about it. Kirk tells her off, but I don't think she's too happy about what he says to her. Minus 1 more point, because you can see the string, and if anybody knows what that sculpture is, please put it in the comments below. Kirk doesn't back down. And if you know what this sculpture is, please post in the comments below. The next point is lost since there's no security to keep Crichton out of engineering. He got in way too easy. And how is he able to open the dilithium chamber without a password? So minus 1 more point.
What are you doing?
There goes another red shirt. Now comes the funniest line of Season 3.
The Dolman has promised that I will be whipped to death if I let Captain Kirk pass through that door.
There isn't enough time in this episode for a really good fistfight, so Spock ends it with a phaser blast. Minus 1 more point for not taking them to security now. Kirk compliments Spock that only Vulcan women are logical, but Spock is thinking T'Pring was a logical witch. Minus 1 more point for Kirk struggling with Ayla on her bed. He should have just lifted up the mattress and dumped her out. And now the struggle doesn't withstand the test of time and political correctness. And if you recognize this art piece, please put it in the comments below. Now Kirk offers to give her a spanking. Is this his punishment, or is he just into kinky sex? Is this a rip in her dress, or is it supposed to open like that? Elan is now playing the victim like a spoiled teenage brat, and she knows how to fake cry too. The poor men of the planet Elas must all be whipped. And there it goes. I'll bet you she does this all the time on her home planet. That's probably why they're trying to get rid of her. How many times has this happened in Star Trek so far? Kirk is feeling a little ill, and now he has to go take a cold shower. The poor men of Elas have no chance on their planet, do they? And now she wants a spanking. She may be a manipulative little brat, but she's still into kinky sex. And again, it is Lieutenant Uhura who saves the day, picking up a transmission from inside the Enterprise to the Klingon ship. Kirk is triangulating. Those Elasian tears really got to him. At least in this episode, the red shirt who was killed had a name. This communicator really looks like one from Starfleet, just a different color. This is definitely true. If he can wear cheap placemats for clothing with pride, you know he can handle any type of interrogation. So, is it legal in Starfleet to interrogate by way of Vulcan mind meld? Crichton kills himself, and the security guard is like, wait, I'm a red shirt and I survived. What's up with that? Kirk is really under Elan's influence right now. He thinks this guy is Scotty. But Evans is like, man, I thought that was going to be me this time. And this is probably her fault, since Crichton loved her. She probably used her tears to manipulate him too. From this comment, it looks like she's going to play her manipulating game again. That's exactly what she is doing. This is what the Cylons said. Elan wants Kirk to destroy Troyes because she doesn't like little green men. This makes you wonder, does lip slobber have the same effect as the tears? Remember, you should always lock your door when you're making out.
May we please have a word with you?
McCoy and Spock are rather professional here, since they know this time her tears caused this incident and not his personal need to get laid on every mission. Does Kirk want the antidote for himself, or because he knows he will make a fortune selling it to the men of Elas? We will never know. If the Enterprise is traveling at impulse and the Klingons actually went to Warp 6, they would have left the solar system in about 10 seconds and would no longer be a threat, so minus 1 more point. This is Chekhov, this is not, so minus 1 more point. And if they want to leave the solar system to fight the Klingons, they will never catch them at Warp 2, so minus 1 more point. Shout out to Kirk for listening to Scotty at the last second before he blew up the ship. Scotty, this is your fault for not having security posted and passwords to keep the bad people out of engineering. Look closely, this is Sulu and this is not, so minus 1 more point. Now he's back, but what happened to Chekhov? Obviously, the Klingons know that the Enterprise was sabotaged. Spock has Kirk get Elan off the bridge. Is he doing this because Kirk has been compromised, or so he can take credit in the fight against the Klingons, or because he is secretly conspiring with Elan so she can make her move on Kirk again in the turbolift? And why did it take so long for Scotty to realize the dilithium crystals were burnt? The computer would have said something, so minus 1 more point. And minus another point for not having a 5-year supply of dilithium crystals for their 5-year voyage. What she doesn't say is Test 24 are her tears mixed with Elan's tears and Spock's DNA, so she can secretly create that love potion she has always wanted. Dr. McCoy also sees the financial value of this antidote, which is why he's going to continue working on it. Back on the bridge, the Klingons are getting a little aggressive. Kirk asks what the power situation is, but it doesn't look good. And minus 1 more point for not asking for help. Little does Petrie know he's about to save the mission with his necklace of cheap rocks. And it looks like Elan's dress is see-through.
Yes!
Kirk contacts the Klingons to try and reason with them and says, hey, he looks just like the cartoon version. Elan shows up in a new dress. I guess she heard me about the see-through dress. Of course, this one is a side-through dress. Here we go again. This is Chekhov. This is not, so minus 1 more point. Even Kirk noticed that time, that's why he's telling Sulu to stay there. The Klingons fly through mold-covered space. The mold is messing up Spock's computer. Spock gets out his magic salt shaker. She's like, why are you pointing that at me? The next point is lost, since these two planets do have enough scientific knowledge to know their common stones are dilithium crystals. Did you ever notice when the Enterprise leans, Sulu leans too? Elan's tears have such a control over Kirk, he now thinks Chekhov is Scotty. Looks like Kirk and Spock are making a smoothie in the blender. Minus 1 more point, since going to Warp 2 means you are leaving at 8 times the speed of light. The tension is so strong, Kirk lets out a really big fart. The next point is lost for Scotty leaving engineering when they are flying on dilithium fragments during battle. Look closely, Elan laughs, so minus 1 more point. The Klingon ship gets hit, and they limp away in shame.
Yes!
Elan is pissed. She wanted more carnage. Elan wants Kirk to go down and attend the wedding, but Kirk says, I can't. This is a bottle show and they can't afford to build the extra sets. Another point is lost because she's wearing the dilithium crystals that are supposed to be in the ship. As a going away present, she gives him the knife she tried to kill him with.
Aww.
Elan says bye and turns into glitter. McCoy is the miracle worker. He has found a cure for the tears. He can make millions back on the planet Ales with the men and the givers of pain and delight. But Spock says Kirk was able to cure himself because of his love for the ship. And this is one of the few times where Spock agrees with Dr. McCoy. And they fly off into the sunset. So, who were the Troyans? Today we say goodbye to Bill Blackburn, who played Hadley, who I keep calling out for being either Chekhov or Sulu. He was actually on Snow White and the Three Stooges, and has actually been on 75 of the Star Trek episodes as Hadley and as DeForest Kelley's stand-in. Dick Durock was a Marine and at 6'5" has 70 acting credits, including The Incredible Hulk, Swamp Thing, and the Imperious Leader on Battlestar Galactica. He even has more credits as a stuntman and double for Buddy Ebsen and Max Bayer in the Beverly Hillbillies, and Guy Williams in Lost in Space. Lee Duncan played Evans, and this was his first TV screen credit. He will be seen again on Mission Impossible and Boston Legal. Victor Brandt played Watson. He died so well, we will see him one more time on Star Trek. K.L. Smith played the Klingon, has 100 screen credits including Gilligan's Island, Them, and tons of westerns. Tony Young was in the Air Force, has 65 screen credits to his name, including Spider-Woman, Quantum Leap, and the lead in the short-lived Gunslinger. He was also married to Madeleine LaRue for a short time. Unfortunately, lung cancer took him at the age of 64. Jay Robertson, the only Troyan in the show, has 75 credits to his name, including Bewitched, Planet of the Apes, The Cross Super Show, and he played Dracula in the Bay City Rollers Meet the Saturday Superstars. Yes! Frances Nguyen, probably the first Vietnamese woman in American film, got her debut as Liat in South Pacific. She had a fling with Marlon Brando and married Robert Culp. You'll see her again in Battle for the Planet of the Apes, Automan, and Saint Elsewhere. She was a victim of child abuse while growing up and now has a second career of helping out abused women and children. Next week on Battlestar Galactica, Elon meets Elon. Picard meets the perfect mate, Kamala. No! This Kamala. Trip meets Padma. No, this Padma. And Nurse Chapel creates the love potion to Pon farr with Spock. I don't think he likes that show. Aelon of Troyes, I don't know how they came up with that name, gets a score of 73%. Thanks for viewing. Be sure to check out my other videos and playlists, and most important of all, click that like button, the share button, and that subscribe button, and I will see you again soon.